we have this intercorporate dividend. So for domestic corporation, na ang payer and then ang recipient is domestic and resident foreign corporation. So hindi daw sila taxable. So meron kasing tayong tinatawag na tax exemption ng mga intercompany dividend. So ang rationale behind that is of course to avoid the double taxation. Kasi kung isipin nyo, 'di ba, yung amount of dividend technically earnings na yon ng corporation. So apparently na subject na siya sa income tax. So yung pagtataksan mo no for another pag yun nga magiging double taxation yung mangyayari kasi nga etong mga stock technically they own the company, di ba? If you're a stockholder, you own a part of that company, of that corporation. So technically bago ka magkaroon ng earnings na disposable income no subject for dividends, yung mga pwedeng i-declare as dividend, na subject na yon sa income tax. So kapag sinubject mo ulit sa final withholding tax, it will result to double taxation already. Kaya kung mapapansin niyo dyan, yung domestic corporation, na dividend na ang recipients domestic corporation and resident foreign corporation, hindi na siya taxable. However, on the other hand, if yung recipient is a non-resident foreign corporation, masasubject siya sa 15% final withholding tax. Tapos kung mapapansin nyo dito, 15% lang kasi nga, yung 15% imposed if the country is in which the NRFC is domiciled allows a tax credit against the corporation's tax due equivalent to 15%, which is the difference between the regular rate of 30% and the 15% tax rate on dividends. If the foreign country does not allow such credit in favor of the NRFC, then the tax rate on such dividends shall be 30%. So yung 15% applicable lang siya if yung kung saan domiciled yung NRFC na yon, no, nagga-grant ng tax credits, meaning if meron din silang income from other countries na kino-consider din nila yung as tax credits, no, as a deduction dun sa tax due na babayaran nila. So technically 30% pa rin siya if walang ganong policy na nag-a-allow ng tax credit. So may condition doon. If yung problem walang sinabi, if silent ang problem, no, ang assumption is 30%. Pero pag sinabing nag-grant or ina-allow nung country na yon na mag-tax credit, sasabihin naman siya ng problem eh. Then use the 15% final withholding tax. Then if ang payer naman is a foreign corporation, for domestic corporation, of course, since income within and without for DC, taxable pa rin yan. So 100% of dividend is included in the ITR. And then for foreign corporation, no, the general rule not taxable kasi nga 'di ba sinasabi natin na income within lang, pero pag partly, no, if there an income which is portion income within and then income without, kung ano lang yung within, yun lang yung masasubject sa income tax. Parang same lang din siya dun sa individual kanina. Okay. So next, ito naman yung types of forms, BIR forms filed by the payer of the passive income. So etong monthly remittance form 0619F then, same na 10th day of the month following. And then the quarterly remittance form, yung 1601FQ, same din no, following the last day of the month, following the close of the taxable quarter. And then meron din siyang quarterly list of alphabetical payees. So yun yung QAP. Tapos yung annual information return, ito yung 1604F, same din siya. Parang ito lang din yung database mo, yung annual alpha list of payees. Then these are also used to pay other final taxes that may be imposed on income payments received by your juridical entities. Same, actually yun yung sinisabi din kanina doon, yung note nung sa forms for individual taxpayers. So next, yun yung for passive income na subject sa final withholding tax for individuals and corporations. So yun yung tatandaan nyo, very lang no, marami naka-present naman na to ng maayos, naka-table na. So I think madali na lang din siyang i-memorize kasi for mga problems no, nag-i-incorporate tayo ng madaming income, madaming passive income. Tapos magbibigay tayo doon ng mga conditions. Kung napansin niyo yung mga problems natin nung first term exam, parang gano'n, pero madadagdagan siya ng other income. Mag-i-incorporate na tayo ng passive income, ng mga capital gains, tapos per item, dapat ma-analyze nyo kung ano dapat yung rate, kung tax exempt ba siya, kung within and without ba dapat, kung 100%, kung anong rate. So we really need to be familiar with the conditions, no, with the rates na naka-present dito. Madali naman kasi hindi naman siya super daming rates, no. Kung mapapansin nyo, for individual 10 or 20 lang, tapos may 15% lang na nahiwalay. Tapos ito yung pre-termination, tandaan nyo lang yung 12, 5, 12, 20 for 3, 4, then 4 to 5. And then for foreign corporation, straightforward din naman, 20 and 30 lang. Then kakaiba lang yung foreign currency deposit system, yung mga FCDU. So 7.5 and 15. So yun, be familiarized lang with the rates, no, with the kinds of passive income. So next, let's move on to capital gains subject to final tax, also known as capital gains tax. So yung una, yung on the sale of domestic shares of stock. Actually, discuss naman na natin, no, yung capital gains tax. Technically, ito yung tax ini-impose on the capital gains. So ano ba tong capital gains? Ito yung mga asset like shares of stock, real properties, no, mga capital asset natin. So on the sale of domestic shares of stock, makakategorize siya into two. Una yung not traded in stock exchange and traded in stock exchange. So first, shares of stock in a domestic corporation not traded in stock exchange. So anong tax base kung saan ipa-pattern or magiging basis ng tax rate natin, no? Yung net capital gain. So yung net capital gain, ito daw yung excess of the amount realized on the sale, which is technically the selling price over the basis or adjusted basis of the share. So sa selling price, ito yung total consideration of the sale consisting of the sum of money and or the fair market value of the property received, if any. So sa mga problems natin, mag-incorporate tayo ng madaming types of amounts. Then ang challenge doon for how you will be able to identify if ano yung dapat gamitin as tax base. Dapat daw, it is the selling price. So ano ba yung selling price? Ito yung total consideration or yung fair market value, if any. And then yung adjusted basis or yung i-deduct mo doon sa selling price is the basis of the share sold plus expenses or sales of disposition. So ang rate dito is 15% for individuals. This is for individuals. And then ang withholding agent is the payer of the income, who in this case is the buyer. Ganun palagi ang natin, ang understanding natin when it comes to withholding tax system. Kung sino yung payer, no, kung sino yung magbabayad ng income, siya yung magwi-withhold, siya yung withholding agent. So who are subject? All individual taxpayers except, of course, the following. Una, yung dealers and securities. Bakit hindi siya kasama? Kasi nga, ordinary asset nila yon, yung mga securities na yon. So, hindi siya capital gains. So, part lang siya ng ordinary income na isa-subject dun sa income tax return. And then, same with the investors, of course, in shares of stock in a mutual fund company. Since yun din yung, kumbaga, ways of working talaga nila. Yun yung, kumbaga inventory nila yon, hindi siya capital asset. And then all other person, whether natural or juridical, who are specifically exempt from national internal revenue taxes under existing investment incentives and other special laws. And then letter E, the sale or barter exchange of stock option is treated as a sale, barter, or exchange of shares of stock not listed on the tax exchange. So I don't know if na-expose na kayo sa stock options, pero I believe it will be further discussed sa advanced accounting, financial, and reporting sa AFAR. Pero yung stock options, to give you an idea, ito yung right, no? It gives the investor the right to buy or sell a stock at agreed price and date. So para siyang contract na at this particular period, no, etong meron kang right na bilhin to, yung amount of these shares at na ganitong presyo, no? yung sale or barter daw no ng stock options, considered siya as sale or barter ng exchange of stocks not listed in the stock exchange. So kasama din siya. Then next one is yung BIR forms to be filed, no? Yung form 1707 na must be filed within 30 days after each transaction. And then yung 1707A, yun lang yung final, yung annual na consolidated return. So ito yung fina-file April 15 of each year covering all stock transactions of the preceding year. So next one, ito naman yung shares of stock listed and traded through the local stocks exchange. So ano naman ang rate and base dito? So ang rate daw is 6/10 of 1%. So 6/10 of 1% ng gross selling price or gross value in the money of the share stocks hold. So ang withholding agent must be deducted and withheld by the stockbroker who effected the sale at the stock exchange. Who are the subject? Of course, all individual taxpayer except yung mga dealer securities, investors ng mutual fund, kasi yung mga specifically exempted. Also, sellers of shares of publicly listed company which is non-compliant with the mandatory minimum public ownership subject to 15% capital gains tax. So, if hindi sila compliant dun sa mandatory minimum public ownership is 20%. So, dapat yung 20% daw ng buong stocks nila is owned by public. So, dapat yung rule na bago sila hindi ma-subject dito sa yung shares of stock na listed and traded through the local stock exchange. So if that's the case, no, if non-compliant sila, hindi sila masasubject din sa 6/10 of 1% of the gross selling price, but the 15% of the capital gains tax. Next is the seller shares of stock in the stock exchange where the transaction excludes the public by pre-arranging the sale or predetermining the buyers. So subject din siya sa 15% capital gains tax. So yun na, itong stock, yung 6/10 na technically ang tawag dito, stock transaction tax, hindi siya tax on income, no? Kasi ang basis niya is the gross selling value or the gross selling price. So technically, it is a business tax. Strictly speaking, this is tax on the sale transaction and not on the income or gain from such sale. So kahit regardless, no, if that transaction will result to income, meaning mas maliit lang yung na-consider na payment sa'yo as compared to the amount na kinonsider mo dun sa binenta mong shares, matataksan ka pa rin kasi ang basis niya is the gross selling price. And then letter E, BIR form to be filed by the stockbroker who effected the sale. Yun yung BIR form 2552 na filed within 5 banking days from the date of collection. So notes for tax on traded shares, the tax on the sale of shares traded at the local at the stock exchange is not an income tax but a business tax. Ito nga yung sinabi ko. It is a form of the percentage tax on the selling price under section 127A of the tax code, which is also at stock transaction tax. However, the imposition of the percentage tax on the selling price of traded shares has the effect of a final tax because any gain on the sale is not returnable. And then next one is the effect of non-payment of tax. Pag hindi ka nagbayad nito, no, yung sale or exchange cannot be registered in the books of the corporation. So requirement talaga siya. So hindi ka pwedeng hindi magbayad ng corresponding tax. So any tax transfer agent or secretary of the corporation who caused the registration of transfer of ownership or title of any share of stock in violation of the aforementioned requirement shall be punished in accordance with the provisions of tax code. And then redemption of preferred shares. So if redeemed by issuing corporation which is not contemplating dissolution, any capital gain or loss of the preferred shareholder from the redemption shall be subject to the regular income tax. So ito special case to, no? For preferred shares, di ba meron tayong mga preferred shares na yung preference share tapos meron kang right to redeem, no? Kumbaga babayback mo, bibilin mo pabalik. So any capital gain or loss of the preferred shareholder shall be subject to regular income tax. Okay, next, on the sale of real property classified as capital asset. So, other type of capital asset naman to. Ito na yung mga real property, mga land, building, no? So, transaction subject, it is the sale, the transfer, or other disposition of real property located in the Philippines classified as capital asset, including the pacto de retro sales and other form of conditional sales. So, ano ba tong pacto de retro sale? I think it will be discussed in yung sales na law subject. So, pacto de retro, ito yung technically sale siya, pero merong buyback agreement. Meaning, meron kang isiset na time or period kung saan babilin mo pabalik yung capital asset na binenta mo. So, kahit na may ganong condition, no, na bibilin mo rin siya pabalik, masasubject pa rin siya as transaction na subject sa capital gains tax. So next, the rate and the base of tax. So ang rate is 6% of the gross selling price or current fair market value of the property, whichever is higher. Yun na, please take that in mind na whichever is higher. So mga problems natin sa quiz and exams, may yung problem, maraming ibibigay na amount, maraming ibibigay na values yung problem. So need mong ma-identify doon kung ano yung gross selling price, ano yung fair market value, then dapat kung ano yung higher, yun yung i-consider mo for computation ng capital gains tax. With fair market value daw, it is the higher then of the zonal value or assessor's value. So yun na, tatandaan mo, gross selling price and the fair market value, whichever is higher. Ano naman yung fair market value? It is the higher of the zonal value or assessor's value. Third one, final tax to be withheld by the payer. It's a final tax in the capital gain from the sale which is not returnable then. Kasi nga final yun din, yung capital gains tax in substance, same lang din siya sa final withholding tax na final tax siya. Then who are subject? All individual taxpayers. So first to sale to state under an eminent domain. So if the sale is made to the government or any of the political agencies or to government-owned or controlled corporations, the taxpayer may choose either to have the gain included in the ITR and tax under the graduated 8% or subject to regular capital gains tax. So ito additional perk siya, no, since you're transacting with government. So si government, it will give you an option if gusto mo ba siyang i-subject lang sa regular income tax or masubject sa usual na 6% of gross selling price. Of course, ang pipili mo dito kung saan ka mas magbe-benefit. Kasi if iisipin nyo yung 8% is ang basis niya is income, no? Eh dito yung capital asset, yung mismong selling price. So kung saan ka mas mapapaliit na babayaran, yun yung pipiliin mo. The next one, exemptions from capital gains tax. So ito yung mga sale of raw lands to be used by socialized housing projects or sold under the community mortgage program. So ano ba itong community mortgage program na to? Ito siya yung mortgage financing program of the social housing financing corporations which assists legally organized associations of underprivileged and homeless citizens to purchase and develop a tract of land under the community of ownership. So yun yung mga for the marginalized, no, yung parang assistance para maka-help na makabili sila ng bahay nila ng lower cost. So if nagbenta ka ng land na ganyan for social housing, exempt siya sa capital gains tax. Next one is land transfers under the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law of 1988. It has something to do naman with the farming industry, no. So anything that will be involving sa Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law of 1988 exempted din siya sa capital gains tax. And then yung sale ng principal residence mo, provided na yung mapagbebentahan mo, ay pagbibili mo lang din ng another principal residence. So may mga requirements yan. So dapat natural person or individual located in the Philippines. Tapos yung proceeds ng sale dapat ma-utilize mo para makabili ng bagong principal resident within 18 calendar months after the date ng sale. Tapos yung historical cost or adjusted basis of the real property shall be carried over to the new principal residence built or acquired, and then the taxpayer must notify the commissioner within 30 days from the date of sale or disposition of his intention to avail the tax exemption. And the tax exemption can be availed only once every 10 years. So yun yung mga exemption. So paano kung yung proceeds na napagbentahan mo sa principal residence po ay hindi fully utilized? Of course, there's a corresponding computation kung paano naman matataksan yung unutilized amount. So, yun yung unutilized amount over yung gross selling price times yung higher GSP and fair market value, yun yung taxable portion. Yung taxable portion, yun yung ipatimes mo ngayon sa 6% na capital gains tax. So if the proceeds of the sale are not fully utilized in the purchase of construction of new residence, yun nga, yung the portion of gain presumed to have been realized on the sale shall be subject to gains tax. Kasi ang assumption ni BIR na doon, since hindi mo siya na-consume no, in buying your principal resident as if gain siya. Kasi nga 'di ba ang objective mo is to buy a new principal residence. Kung nagkaroon ka na ng new principal resident nang hindi nako-consume, so technically nagkaroon ka pa rin ng same principal resident pero may natira ka pang money, mako-consider siya as gain. So yun yung nagiging taxable portion. So ang need mong i-file na BIR form is the BIR form number 1706 na need daw 30 days following each of sale, exchange, or disposition of real property. Together, of course, ito yung notification mo with the commissioner with your intention na na need mo ibibili mo siya ng principal residence. Kung bantin nyo, 30 days lang din yan. So, ito naman, for capital gains naman to share of listed, capital gains tax on capital gains. So, this is for corporations naman. So, sale, exchange, or other disposition of domestic shares of stock. Yung net capital, actually, same concept lang din to. Kumbaga, sinimplihan ko na lang. But concept is same with individuals. So, net capital gain lang din yan. So, yun yung kung magkano yung selling price minus the adjusted basis. So, yun yung net capital gain. So, yun yung imumultiply mo sa 15% na capital gains tax for corporations. Pag foreign corporations naman, yung net gain na over 100,000, 5%, and in excess, 10%. So, ang forms na need mong i-file is 1707, 30 days then after each transaction. And then the 1707A, yung 15th day of the 4th month following the close of the preceding taxable year. Next is the share listed in trade as the stock exchange. Same din siya with individuals. It is a 6/10 of 1% based on the gross selling price. So, BIR form 2552 then and must be filed within 5 banking days from the date of collection. Pag sinabi nating 5 banking days, hindi kasama dito yung weekends. So, mga weekdays lang. Then note, final tax on capital gains on the sale of shares of stock applies to all corporate taxpayers. And the exceptions for individual taxpayers also apply for corporate taxpayers. So, same lang din siya sa mga notes natin kanina doon sa individual taxpayers. Next, sale of real property classified as capital asset. So ito naman yung sale, exchange, or other disposition of lands and buildings which are not actually used in the business of the corporation and treated as capital assets. So yun yung yun yung requirement. Dapat considered siya as a capital asset. If mako-consider siya as ordinary asset like inventory or supplies, no, yung mga capital asset na to, hindi siya masasubject. Subject lang siya sa ordinary income. So ang rule dapat is treated siya as capital asset. So anong tax rate and tax base? Same, at 6%. The final tax of 6% based on the gross selling price of a fair market value, whichever is higher, and the fair market value is the higher between the commissioner's value and the assessor's value. The BIR form to be filed is 1706 then filed within 30 days following each of the sale, exchange, or disposition of real property. If the seller naman is our RFC, meaning yung ang nagbayad, ang nagbenta is the resident for a foreign corporation, gain on sale is returnable, meaning need siyang i-report sa income tax return nila and subject siya sa regular 30%. So yun na, for domestic corporation to, itong capital asset na 6%. If ang seller is RFC, 30%, then reportable siya sa corporate income. And then if a seller is an NRFC, final tax siya na 30% on the capital gain realized in the sale. So exemptions on the capital gains tax, same, yung sale of raw lands to be used for socialized housing projects or sold under the Community Mortgage Program under RA number 7279 or the Urban Development and Housing Act of 1992, and land transfers under the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law of 1988. So, feel ko at this is time no na medyo nakaka-overwhelm yung dami ng rates, dami ng tax base, dami ng types of income and gains na need ma-consider. But I suggest na madali lang siyang ma-memorize, no? So need nyo lang aralin mabuti. Tapos actually yung way of presenting ko naman ng mga items, nakaano na siya, kumbaga mas madali nang ma-memorize. Like naka-table na, tatandaan nyo na lang yung mga key terms, yung mga key concepts na I think na-cover naman natin. So yun, I think that would be all for our modules number 11 and 12. And I hope meron kayong natutunan. So if you have any questions, any clarifications, may mga questions kayo, feel free to chat in our respective GCs so I can address it. So thank you very much and stay safe, guys.